All right, let's see here. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Satsang. It's wonderful to be here live, and this time everybody knew it was going to be live. I need to go over here to my channel and make sure I'm live. People can see me, people can hear me, etc. There we go, live now. Just mute me over there, and oh, it looks different on the screen there than it does here. That's my green screen behind the thing. This is actually just a, as you can see, it's not really a brick wall. It's just a backdrop that I use. That I set it up for some photos that I was making, and just haven't taken it down. So you get to see things as they happen. So welcome everyone to Satsang, and I hope you've come with questions and come with enthusiasm and come with interest and come with a willingness to go deep into your own heart to discover the truth of your being. Hey, Eli says, oh my goodness, hello GP, I forgot what day it was. What a blessing. Hello GP. Hiron, hi GP. There's some sort of buzzing sound in the background. Is it like terribly annoying? There is a little bit of sound coming from I don't know what it's from, but yeah, I hear that too kind of like it. Okay, I'm going to do something here. I don't know. Oh, I hear the buzzing. It's going to get echoing. Okay, so we're going to try this. I'm going to try taking this. No idea what the sound is. Okay. I'm gonna get a pair of funky old headphones that I broadcasting on right now. Let's do a quick battery change and see if that fixes our problem. Sometimes that's what the problem is. How about now? Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now? A little bit distorted. A little bit. Yeah, it's good now. Great. Whew! Sorry about that. A little electronic buzz. Dead battery was was getting too low. Yay! And another problem fixed, and another technical issue solved. So, again, as always, please type in, who you are, where you are listening from. What I'm really encouraging everyone to do is to bring questions that are related to your freedom, your ultimate freedom, if you would. Really reach deep inside of you to find, what is it that I really crave in order to be free? And what does it mean to be free? What does that word mean? Well, for me, the word for freedom, the word for liberation, the word for health, the word for happiness, my definition of all of those is the same. And that is a sense of well-being that is independent of all circumstances and conditions. It is making our happiness and our freedom conditional upon external circumstances that creates our suffering. If I believe that I need to have some kind of circumstance going on out in the world before I can be free, or before I can be happy, or before I can be lovable, or any of the qualities that are actually inherent in us, I am going to become a slave to conditions, and my entire life is going to be attempting to get certain conditions in place and to keep them in place if and when I do. And this, the reality of existence is change. Nothing is permanent. Nothing comes and stays. From a thought that fleetingly goes by, to a sensation, to a feeling, or any circumstances in our life. Is there anything about your life that's exactly the same as it was a year ago, or 5 years ago, or even this morning? Life is a constant flow. Life is not static. It can't be. I've got lights here. There's a light here shining on me. Right? We go to turn on the light. Oh, there's my light. But it's not actually a light. It is a flow of light, right? If it wasn't a flow of light, there'd be no need for an electric bill, right? You turn on your light, you have your light, and it's static. But it isn't. It is a rapidly moving wave. All life is like that, which means that attempting to control conditions is insane. It's like attempting to fly without wings. You simply cannot do it. And the world has gotten into the state it's in by trying to do just that. We think through warfare, through aggression, through manipulation, through power grabs, that we're going to control things. We cannot control life. We cannot do it. And so this is a real blow to our egos. It's a blow to our sense of, being the self-made man or woman or like that. Because it's all about control. If I could just get things the way I want to, then I'd be happy. It is a sure recipe for suffering. We have to make our happiness and our freedom unconditional. When I am completely equanimous, or in a state of equanimity, no matter what's happening externally, then I am free from conditions. If I'm happy, no matter what's going on in my life, then I am free of conditions. Then I'm truly free. I'm only free if the sense of freedom, the sense of well-being, the sense of happiness is innate and not dependent upon anything external. Now, the truth of the matter is,
You are free. You are happiness itself. But you believe yourself to be in bondage. You believe yourself to be stuck. You believe yourself to be unhappy. And the power of the mind is such that whatever it believes actually gets manifested in some concrete form. It appears as though it's true. It's the nature of the mind. It's the way consciousness actually works. So just because you're experiencing things doesn't mean they're true. So when I say you are already free, I'm not kidding. There's no need for you to become free because you already are. What there is a need for is to become increasingly aware of all of the places where you've denied the truth of your freedom. And it started when we were children. We were taught you're not free, you're dependent. You got all these requirements that have. We went through schooling that was, testing us constantly. All of these things taught us to believe that our freedom depended upon external conditions. It doesn't. You are free. The true spiritual path is a discovery of what's already been, what is already true about you, what's always been true about you. That is what the spiritual path is. It is not a becoming something. You don't become free. You realize the freedom that's been there the whole time. Which means we need to become adept, we need to become refined, we need to become sharpened, so that we're seeing the beliefs that we're going along with. Our mind has got to become more subtle, more perceptive. So we recognize when we are in a habitual pattern of thought and feeling that is contrary to the truth. And it is the truth. You actually are free. And it would help if you just started right now, right this second, think, oh, I am free. I'm just believing that I'm not. I am happy. I'm just believing I'm not. I am lovable. I'm just believing that I'm not. I am abundant. I'm just believing that I'm not. It's a very different approach than thinking I'm not happy and I've got to get something to make me happy. It's a completely different way of approaching life. And so I'm inviting all of you into that. So, let me go take a look. Namaste from Morocco. Hello, Khalid. Very good to have you. Beautiful satsang to everybody from the southern United States. Happy Mardi Gras. Ishta, she's in Louisiana. I am in my journey of being toxic to being positive. Azu. Yes, from Catherine from London. It's good now. Everybody's saying it's good. Good. Namaste from Adelaide. Hello, Jonathan. Good to have you here. Catherine, hello. Rainy London. Oh, it's raining there today. What a surprise. How unusual for London. Azu says, respect to all my elders. Thanks for all great things. Sorry if I have used negative or offensive to my elders. Respect to all. Well, Arzu, I've never had anything like that towards me coming from you, so no need to apologize. You've done nothing wrong. Troll says, taxes seem to always be there. Well, they weren't always there. They're there now. They're a main staple of life now, but they weren't always there. The hunter-gatherers that lived around here for millions of years, they didn't have taxes. So, and there'll be a time again when we won't. But in the meantime, don't make the absence or presence of taxes cause you suffering. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Simple as that. And the things unto God that are God's. Remington says, I enjoyed Inner Reconciliation Level 3. What is the next step after that? I would still like to remove some unproductive aspects of myself. I am working on something new. It's going to be highly, highly simplified, kind of going back to the roots. what I would recommend, now that you've actually gotten through level 3, when he continued, it's not an attempt to make myself better. It would make me feel more peaceful. Right. What I would recommend that you do is go all the way back to level 1 and do the body awareness exercises. Go back all the way to the beginning, where all we did was allow things to be the way they are. You know, as people move through the courses and get into the more advanced material, our old habit of self-fixing re-emerges. It's inevitable. And so we find ourselves trying to turn inner reconciliation into another tool of becoming, really turning it into another self-help tool. It's not a self-help tool, it's a self-realization tool. So go back all the way, I think it's section 2 of level 1, the body awareness exercises. And just do those with a completely open heart. See if you can consistently get to the place where you can let any feeling arise in you and you can just be with it. Not react to it, not try to push it away. You know, if it's painful, you want to push it away. If it's pleasurable, I want more of that. So there's no resistance and there's no clutching. Whatever comes up. And when it'll come up, there'll be an impulse to want to react to it. Don't react. Just be with it. Don't go off on its narrative. So you're not embracing it and you're not pushing it away. You are simply being with it. This is the most valuable skill to acquire. The capacity to simply be present with whatever is happening. The feelings that are arising in you is your current reality. You cannot base your own spiritual path or spiritual growth on what Buddha was experiencing, or what G experiences, or what Muji experiences, or what your neighbor experiences. It's your experience that matters, and it's only your experience. Harmonizing with what you're experiencing, becoming full of equanimity, poise, the willingness to be present is the space in which the things that are coming up can transform into something much more valuable, much more positive, much more useful. Not by forcing them, but by simply allowing them the space to be. Then you drop the inner conflict, and that's when you will start finding that peace. So that would be my recommendation, Remington. Just take it with you. Do it a lot. Do it in the gym. Do it first thing in the morning. Do it last thing at night. And really establish yourself in this place of pure allowing. It will be. It will correct what's missing, and it'll deepen what you discovered in levels 2 and 3, because they require this undercurrent of allowing in order to truly sink into the level that it's capable of them to sink in. Emiliano, hi from Sweden. In raising children, mustn't one aspire to bring them stability? Yes, of course. We want stability for ourselves, and fortunately for us, the universe is relatively stable. I mean, you know, this microphone isn't going to turn into a cat. It's going to stay in the form of a microphone for a while. But eventually, it'll decay, it'll fall apart, it'll get old and broken, and it'll be ground down, it'll become something else. But so there is a natural stability to life, and that's what I want you to seek. I want you to seek the harmony and the poise that is in the nature of life itself, even though life is a constant flow. It's not that the flow is erratic and random. It's extremely beautiful and orderly and harmonious, but it is constantly changing. When we have ourselves in a stable position, when our lives seem to be stable, you got a good job and your kids are doing well in school and they have friends, and it's really good. You be enormously grateful for it, but don't clutch, because things can things can change. And so if you're holding on to it tightly, you're suffering. You're not even really enjoying the stability that you have, right? So you have to let go of the clutching and enjoy the stability, knowing full well that things are going to change. They could change again and things be even more stable, more interesting, or it could change again and something could come into your life. I think I mentioned about the friend of mine who woke up in the middle of the night, saw he was living in Northern California during the fires. Looked out his window and it was way off in the distance. So he said, "Well, I'll wait for a little bit," and he figured it would be, next morning or something before the fire would get to him. He went downstairs, came back like 10 minutes later, looked out the window, and it was right at his property line. He just got his wife out of bed. They got into the car. They threw on a coat. They got in the car. They drove. The flames were literally right behind him. They came that close to losing them. He lost everything. The house, all their possessions, and on the same property in another building was his business. He lost all of that. All of his computers, all his back files, everything gone. Like that. Now you can't plan for these things. You can't so insulate yourself from a world of change that you're going to be exempt from it. You can't. So in the moment where things are good and stable, and you can be stable for your children, you can be consistently loving, you can be consistently strong, you can be consistently wise about the nature of change and the fact that it can come from a million places and sneak up behind you. That gives them the stable place being in here, not out there. The stability is in us, the stability we have about the real nature of existence and ourselves. Everything in life is changing. There's only one thing that isn't changing, and that's you. The real you. The you that we're attempting to discover here. That doesn't change. That's stable. That is the ultimate stability. The content of consciousness is constantly changing and needs to. The consciousness itself, the perceiving itself, does not. And this can be verified, right? I mean, the person we take ourselves to be, the ideas we have about ourselves, the images we hold of ourselves, those aren't stable. They're changing all the time. But the actual perceiving itself, it's very subtle, but if you could just tune into the fact that while all of this out in front of you has been changing, throughout your entire life there's been something that's been the same. Can you just sense that whether you're through your 5-year-old eyes or 20-year-old eyes or 50-year-old eyes, you were seeing things? Just notice that the sense of perceiving, the actual consciousness of things, has been identical, has never changed. It's been absolutely rock solid. Your true being is the only constant. It is the constant against which all change is measured. It is that which is not relative. And it is your very nature. So, hope that answers it for you, Emiliano. Catherine from London says, "Hi, GB. There's a warm, sweet sensation in the chest, like a living presence. It is at the strongest when the attention is directed to the self. It started small and has been growing over the past months. It may sound silly, but it feels like love. And sometimes I'm so touched that it makes me cry. What's going on? Well, it is love. You are feeling the perfume of the self. The self, the true you, is beyond anything that could be sensed. Right? It's kind of like smelling the flower, but you can't find the flower. Tasting the sweetness, but there's no sugar. Right? Love is the fragrance of the self. The emptiness that I refer to is not nothingness. It's not a void. It is empty of any definition, but it is absolutely full of vitality and life and love. The more your sense of self sinks into that place, the more you're going to feel that. Tears will come, but they'll dry eventually. Sometimes great laughter will come. Right? But notice this, Catherine. Notice that the warmth in the chest that arises, that feeling that you're of love, all of the stuff being touched, the tears, are all being perceived. As beautiful and as lovely and as expressive as they are, they're not the absolute. They are the expression of the absolute. The absolute is the one who's looking at them, the one who's seeing them, the one who's conscious of them. And that's you. And the real you cannot be perceived, because you can't stand aloof from yourself and see and look back at yourself. You can't do it. If you did, I'd have, well, then who's that's looking? So the truth of you, your real being, the real realization is that you are always on this side of the lens. And on the other side of the lens is just the infinity and the diversity of the manifest universe. On this side of the lens is the unicity of being, the one. And that one is you. You can tell. You're the one seeing it. I mean, nobody else is witnessing what you are feeling, what your particular experience happens to be. So let your sense of self enjoy these feelings as they come, just like to Emiliano enjoying the stability. Enjoy them, right? But don't cling to them, because they are still phenomenal. Let your sense of identity sink even deeper into that which is aware of even the most subtle things. It is beyond subtle. It cannot be perceived at all. You cannot know yourself. You cannot know. The infinite cannot be known, because it's not an object that can be grasped by the mind. To the infinite, knowing and being are one and the same. It's not something that knows, something that is. It is beingness and knowingness itself. I am, and I know that I am. Does that help, Catherine? Rajesh, I think I said that right? Really reconnecting with myself again and finding that space to heal again. Beautiful. Beautiful. Catherine says, you look a bit annoyed today, GP. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm quite fine. Yeah. A little frantic, a lot of stuff going on. I didn't get back here till like 2 minutes before I had to start. And then, of course, the mic wasn't working for the first 5 minutes. So maybe there's some of that residual energy there. But I'll be conscious of it. Thank you. Emiliana says, okay, I see your point better now. Oh, good. Catherine says, oh, I'm sorry for your friend. Is that why you seem to be a little sad? No. No, it was a while. It was a while ago, and he's fine. He's on the recovery. A lot of people came to his aid to take to help him out. Just really, really beautiful. But it's so poignant. It's not that we want to throw things out, right? This isn't a renunciation. I'm going to renounce the world. I'm going to go become a sadhu, or I'm going to go, into a monastery. It's not necessary. It's simply a sober understanding of the nature of things. knowing that all things are going to pass. If it's a difficult time, it's going to pass. If it's a beautiful time, it's going to pass. That's the nature of life. And to understand that and truly accept that into your heart, into your body, you experience equanimity. You experience, equanimity. It's just peace, because you're not struggling with life. You're not angry with life because it's not doing what you think it should do. You drop your argument with what is, and that's where peace is. So, not aware of any sadness, Catherine. Yeah. But again, I'll stay. You never know. There could be things. There could be things buzzing under the surface that I'm not aware of. I'm not exempt from this. I do take my own advice. I do with myself exactly what I suggest you to do. So, Remington says, "Thanks for your answer, GP. Stay beautiful and love yourself." I will. Thank you. Liz Love, I went to a bingo event and I was thinking of the law of attraction. I'm going to win. And I was struggling. Do I really want this bag? I was feeling anxiety. Do I really want this? Or is my desire changing? Do I really want this bag? Well, yes. See, you're going to find that you're struggling with the mind. Right? They say, well, if you're totally convinced you're going to win, then you're going to win. Well, I'm not. What would you do in a room then if everybody was totally convinced they were going to win? Not everybody's going to win, right? So when pushed to the limit, the teaching on the law of attraction begins to fall apart. On a remedial level, it's very valid, right? Your thoughts create your experience. Your thoughts and your emotions are the lens through which you perceive your life, and therefore they are profoundly influential on what exactly you experience. And so consciously attempting to change the thoughts and the feeling states is going to change the environment in which you're living. Right? But what it doesn't do is it doesn't really understand the nature of the mind and its attachment to things. So how do I assert for myself I'm going to win when I don't know if I'm going to win? Well, that's the whole thing. Your mind, the mind only deals in the concrete. It has no faith. It can't believe in anything it doesn't see. So it wants to see the result, right? And then believe, when in fact it's exactly the other way around. The belief always comes first. The state that your life is in right now is 100% produced by the dominant beliefs that you are living. And these beliefs aren't just on the surface level. They're not just head beliefs. They're very deep. I call them energetic assumptions. They've just been believed for so long you don't even think about them anymore. They've kind of gone automatic. They're under the surface. And then ultimately, you step beyond the law of attraction and the metaphysical teaching, because you come to want to know who you are more than just improve your life. It becomes more than just, I want more stuff. We actually start to get interested in, well, who am I? Who's the one that's having this desire? So when that happens, yes, your desires are going to change. You're going to find that most of our desires, when we're not very conscious, are simply the ego trying to stabilize itself, trying to get things to be the way it wants it. Thinking then it's going to be happy. It's totally conditional happiness and conditional freedom. The nature of the sense of self, the nature of the I that we're referring to, has to be examined. So then, when a desire arises, it isn't immediately grabbed by the ego for its purposes. A desire can arise, and you can be totally present with it without grasping, without clutching, without giving rise to an egoic possessiveness. And that same capacity of equanimity allows painful things to arise, and you can be with those too, right? Because you have cultivated the most powerful skill a human being can cultivate, and that is the capacity to be with what is without wanting to change it, with allowing everything to be as it is. That's how you sink into equanimity. So, yeah, if you'll notice that that underneath a lot, not most of the drive towards the whole law of attraction is a feeling of anxiety. It's a feeling of lack. I'm trying to attract these things in my life because I think then I'm going to be filled up. And so that's the underlying energy, and you're feeling it. And you can only keep your mind in affirmations for so long before those feelings begin to bubble up. What I tell people to do, if you're doing that, affirmations and stuff, when the feelings bubble up, give them your attention. Don't immediately try to push them away. Oh, bad feeling, got to get it away, or I'm not going to be able to manifest what I want. It's like, well, okay, this is the belief coming up. This is the stuff that's standing in the way. You don't get rid of it. You have to be with it. Getting rid of it, you just create more tension. You create more conflict. You create more suffering. The ability to be harmoniously with whatever is going on for you without the reactive pattern that is where all the suffering is, you are walking on the path to real freedom. Yeah. So, you're growing, Liz. You're growing. I like the idea of simply allowing life to unfold to me rather than trying to dictate to life what I want. And that's my major disagreement with the law of attraction. When I had taught it, and I did teach it for a while, I don't anymore, it was all about coming to that place of equanimity, the place of allowing, right? And then whatever desire was truly there was in the most hospitable environment for it to come up and be fulfilled. But even if it comes up and it isn't fulfilled, it just dissolves without being fulfilled, there's no suffering on your part. Right? Because you're just there. Desire comes up. Some desires, they go the distance and they're completely fulfilled. Others don't. There's no problem with that. There's no issue with that. If I'm not attached to an outcome, then no outcome can cause me pain. So it really does come to here. It isn't about getting things the way I want them to be. It's about harmonizing with what is. And as you do that, what happens is that the more you're willing to be with the feelings that are there, all the stories about the feelings, the ongoing narrative, the beliefs that have formed, all begin to dissolve, because they all depend upon you reacting to the moment, to the experience. They all depend on that. If there's no reaction, the story just has to start fading, and then you see everything is just a spontaneous arising. No history, no past. I mean, this moment is not the same as the previous moment. You may have something that's been coming up. I have the same issue. It's been coming up for 10 years. I don't know why it won't go away. Well, that's because it's not an it at all. Memory gives us the illusion that what I'm experiencing now is exactly the same thing that I experienced before. It's not. This moment is constantly being generated, constantly being refreshed. It appears to be static, and your memory thinks, oh, well, this is the same feeling I had yesterday. It's not. It's different. It's like, the picture on your desktop wallpaper on your computer, right? Appears to be static, doesn't it? It appears to not be moving. In fact, it is moving. That in order for there to be a static picture on your screen, the same picture has to be refreshed 60 times a second. All the little dots that make up your screen, they turn on and immediately turn off. If they didn't immediately turn off, you couldn't have a motion picture. You couldn't have actual movement because it would all be blurred because the dots were dimming. They don't. Immediately on off like a light switch, right? Which means in order for a picture to be static, they have to be lit 60 times a second, and that's the refresh rate on your screen. So it's not actually, you're not seeing the same screen ever. It's always new. The same thing is true of our lives. You're never having the same experience. You cannot put your foot in the same river twice. The water's flowed. Every feeling you're having is being generated real time. Is anybody getting an aha about this? Your experience is not something that from the past that's happening. It is being generated in this moment. It is a spontaneous appearing. On the tiniest subatomic level, it's completely mysterious, unknown thing coming into existence and going out of existence. It was actually even measured at 100 trillion times a second. But everything around us that appears to be static is not. It is changing. Matter of fact, it is being constantly renewed. And if you really want to push it all the way, you've realized that being constantly renewed, there's no thing there at all. There's only the flow. Now, that flow is the totality of your experience. And there's nothing keeping it stuck in any form whatsoever. It is totally malleable. It is totally flexible. I'm kind of going off on a tangent there. If that's useful to you all, please let me know. The universe is not what we think it is. It's not even an it. It's not even a thing. It is a constantly unfolding energy or vibration, if you will, where the thing that is vibrating is completely unknown. Jonathan from Adelaide says, 2 of my daily experience, allowing myself to eat the whole cake or allowing myself to feel desire, no eating. Allowing frustration by yelling at my 16-year-old or feeling the frustration only. Looks like there's a question of which is which. I like the fact that you're in the question. This is really important. Allowing yourself to eat the whole cake. If you do that, let's say you do that. I allow myself to eat the whole cake. Stay conscious. Stay conscious with every bite. What I find with people who are overeating, and actually all of us, not even overeating, all of us, we actually taste the first couple of bites, and after that we don't taste anything anymore. We're not conscious anymore. We're just eating. And when you're just unconsciously eating, it's just habit. And so now eating has the opportunity to be a substitute for other deeper emotional work that we need to do. What I would recommend you do is, if you do eat the whole cake, pay a lot of attention to how you feel. You're going to feel crappy. It's too much sugar, too much stuff, right? It's going to feel crappy. Notice that. And then you can say, oh, allowing myself to eat the whole cake is actually inviting feeling crappy. I don't think I'm going to do that. Now, if you make a conscious choice like that, the impulse to do it is still going to be there. And that's when the second part of your sentence, allowing myself to feel the desire and no eating, makes sense, right? There's the desire for it. That's the habit pattern, all right? If I just sit with the desire without giving it expression, but without suppressing it, because of the nature of all experience, it is going to change. It's going to lessen and dissolve and pass away. It's not permanent. But I'm recommending that you do that by allowing the feeling to be there and not distracting yourself. right? Not putting your attention somewhere else. Now that'll do it and the desire will go, but it'll keep coming. But if you can be with the desire, recognizing that it is transient, recognizing that it is not really serving you anymore, and that it is just, the desire is there, and aware that that desire arising creates a reactive pattern that wants to grab and clutch and eat the whole thing, you can recognize that it is that habitual pattern that is the essence of my suffering. And that's what I don't want to give rise to. You can't stop the desires from coming. You can't stop life from happening. So the whole point of spiritual growth is not to overcome desire, to not stop desire, to not become flat. It is to be there's no reaction to the desire. So the desire can just be what it is. There's no reaction no attachment and no aversion. You're not moving towards it, you're not moving away from it, you're simply with it. Now the same thing is, but yelling at your 16-year-old boy if you're pissed off about something is not going to do anything. The mission is to not suppress and not express. Because if you're yelling at, nothing's going to happen of that. Nothing good is going to come from that, right? It's just going to create more tension. So you just feel the frustration, and you make it. He's just being a 16-year-old kid, maybe, and they're pretty much all annoying. Right? There's no way around it. So you just feel the frustration. What's the frustration? I want him to be different than he is. Well, whose problem is that? His or yours? I get it. I have created suffering in this moment. I have created an argument with what's happening in this moment. I think it should be different. And he should be changing to conform to the way I think it should be. So I'm frustrated with him. Right? If there's something that needs to be adjusted in your relationship, and of course there is, he's 16, he's changing constantly. He's trying to be an adult, and yet he's dependent. When the frustration has gone, and it will, when you just let yourself feel the frustration and not express it, recognize that it's your attachment to things being the way you think they should be, and do everything you can to just let go of the attachment and just let it be as it is. The frustration will dissipate, and the entire experience between the two of you will just vanish, or a wise, loving, and compassionate way of approaching him will emerge. That's what will happen. Wisdom will be on the scene now. Whereas the frustration is totally reactive. It's totally unconscious. Does that help you, Jonathan? Patel said, Vrajesh says, yes. I guess that means I got the question answered. Catherine says, yes, it helps. Thank you. Good. Just keep remembering you are the one that is seeing. You're the one that's perceiving. You are not what's being perceived. So anything that is perceived is not you. So do not identify yourself with anything that you are experiencing. Even though your mind will say, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm lonely, I'm excited, right? All of those are states that are coming and going, and they're beautiful, they're wonderful. Right? They're part of life, the ups and the downs, right? But you're not coming and going. We want to know who we are. You want to know who you are, the one watching, not the stuff that's watched. I am K1, it's not a word. Hey GP, it's Jags from the UK. Hello Jags, thank you for all these insightful sessions. At moments where one experiences deep hurt due to hurtful words, action from those close to you, can one stay fully conscious? Well, of course you can. right? You know, a question like that arises because behind it is the desire to get away from the hurtful words or actions of somebody, to get away from the pain. Can you stay fully conscious? Of course you can. You already are, right? You're conscious of what they said. You're conscious of the hurtful intent, right? You're conscious of the whole thing. So you are conscious. Now, to get more conscious, you become equally adept at becoming aware of the reactive pattern, how you want to react to the hurtful words. Because that's where the unconsciousness is, right? Because you couldn't experience the hurtful words if you weren't conscious, right? The awareness is already there, allowing everything in, and in this comes. Then you can begin to explore it. You know, somebody says something to you, right? Maybe you can even feel their intention of wanting to hurt you, right? But you know, Buddha once used the analogy. He says, if somebody gives you a gift and you don't take it, where does it go? Well, it goes back to the one who gave it. If the hurtful comment isn't received, it just goes back to them. It gives nothing. Nothing touches you. Now, you know, some people just get, well, I'm just going to be so cocksure of myself. Yeah, they're full of beans. I'm not going to listen to them there, right? But if you're more truly a sensitive human being, wanting to grow and evolve, wanting to be, you know, the best spiritual character you can be, then you're open to hearing what somebody might have to say about it. So, the being hurt by somebody's words or actions are always the ego's attachment to the way things should be. It doesn't want to have something said about it. You know, I've had things said about me that were said very cruelly and were true. I've had things said to me that were true and said to me in a very nice way. And then I've had things said to me very nasty way that weren't true in the slightest. Actually comes with the territory. I get plenty of comments, plenty of comments on YouTube. Not plenty, actually, very few. At some of it, they just can get very, 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 very nasty, very trollish. So you come back to yourself when somebody's words are true. Somebody's words hurt you. Something in you has to react to it in order for there to be hurt. Now, the pure awareness that you are, pure consciousness, doesn't get hurt by anything. The hurt is also arising in consciousness, so part of the content of consciousness. The more you know yourself as pure awareness, the more you are embodying the qualitylessness, the non-reactivity of pure awareness. Pure awareness has no preferences. It doesn't react to anything. It's like space, right? You know, if I open the door, space doesn't have to get out of the way of the door. You know, it didn't have to get out of the way here in order for me to sit in this chair and talk to you, right? Awareness is like that. It's just open. It's just always open. It just receives everything. So the reaction to what is experienced is not who you are. It is simply reactive pattern that's been programmed into the system due to circumstances that happened in the past, and now here you are, and this reaction happens when this thing happens. Now, none of that's you. None of that is you. You're not your conditioning. You are not your reactive patterns. But we identify with them, and we say, I'm hurt. No, you're not. The sense of identity, the sense of being a person, the sense of this limited self-image you're holding of yourself is hurt. It's hurt because it's trying to maintain itself, you know, as this good, virtuous thing, and somebody else comes along and, hits you upside the head with it, and you can get angry, and get pained and sad, but it's the image you're holding of yourself, not you. And every time you get hurt, it's an opportunity for you to recognize that you're identified with your ego. When you're feeling the hurt, you recognize that's the ego that is hurt. And if I identify and say, I'm hurt, now you have just identified with the ego, and you're stuck with it. You'll feel the hurt. But if you don't identify with that, it's yet another feeling that is simply arising and will pass away. If there's no reaction, right, there's no energy to sustain the pain that came up, right? And what'll happen? It just fade. It'll just dissolve. That's the nature of everything. And then you're totally at peace. You're totally harmonious. People can say the nastiest things, and it's completely unfazing. Right? It's not theoretical. It's simply because there's no place for it to land. If somebody came along and accused you of stealing their car, you go, what? I mean, it's so absurd that you wouldn't even give it a second thought. Right? But yet somebody comes along and says something. Well, why are you giving it a second thought? So to stay fully conscious means to be conscious of everything I've been talking about. The words, the intention, the way it landed, the reaction to it, and notice that the entire thing is being perceived within this framework of consciousness. And now become very interested in why the reaction is happening, what this reaction is about. And can I simply just not react, right? Feel it, but don't react. And just be with that feeling. Don't try to make them wrong. Don't try to go into anger or any of that. There's just a feeling of hurt. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, I agree. And it wants to react, right? But that reaction is where all the suffering is. If there's no reaction, there's no suffering. And now you're equanimous with life. You're just harmonized, right? Because you can't stop life from being what it is. I'm not going to be able to go out and stop all the people from saying things that would be hurtful to you. Just like you can't stop them from saying it about me. I can't. Like I said, he's crazy. He's insane. Look at his eyes. Perhaps I did something like that at some point. People are going to see what they want to see, right? And when all of that's faded and the hurt's gone and the smile is back on your face and you see things as they are, then you can look and go, well, you know what? I could have done that better. I could have handled that better. I could, there's some legitimacy in what they said to me. And then you can take that in as a way of simply fulfilling your deep desire to be more true to the truth, to be more of who you are, and to be kinder and more compassionate and wiser and more gentle and all the qualities that we really, really want. So hope that gets it for you, Jonathan. He says, yes, thanks. Got it. What time we got here? Oh, it's only 2 o'clock. Very good. 2 o'clock here. Powerful answer, GP. Thank you. From, I don't know how to pronounce that. Let's see, IIMK1II. Okay. Liz Love says, thank you. Yes, got it. Hi from Australia. Hi, Carrie. Good to have you with us. Ebony Smith says, hello, GP. How do you separate from or diminish the ego? I recognize it, but still attach. Thank you for that question. It's such an important one. Remember, the ego isn't a thing. And everybody who may be formulating a question right now, just put your question aside and pay attention. I'm going to try to boil the whole thing down here. And it's very likely that if you've got a question brewing, that this is going to answer it. We have to understand who we are and what is the nature of what we're experiencing. The ego is not a thing. It is a belief. It is a thought. The mind is not a thing. The mind is nothing but thought. The wind doesn't blow. Right? We say the wind blows, but there's not a wind there blowing. We've made a noun out of wind so we can talk about the wind, but the wind is not a static thing. The wind is nothing more than molecules of air in motion, going up and down and sideways, right? That's what wind is. So the cloud with the big puffy cheeks that's blowing, is not. So the wind isn't a thing, right? The wind is a functioning. It's a flowing. The mind is not a thing. So we say, my mind keeps telling me, right? My mind is a problem. We're turning mind into an object, into an entity, as if it was something. And all it is thought, the flow of thought, and the patterns that thought take. So mind and thought are synonymous. So there's not a mind thinking. There's only thought happening. And the generic term for that, the functioning of it, is mind. Well, a subset of those thoughts, it's the biggest subset, by the way, are the thoughts that revolve around me, who I am. They're all the thoughts that you have about yourself, the totality of the self-image. This is what I'm like. I was born in this place. I'm this gender. I'm this race. I have these beliefs. I've had these experiences. All of those are thoughts. This particular group of thoughts that refer to I, that is the ego. The ego is not a thing. It is only a word that describes the pattern of thought. The ego is nothing but the thought I. When the I is identified with all of those thoughts, the ego or the person is created. It's not stable, by the way. It's not permanent. Like everything else, the ego comes and goes. The ego's gone. It's changed forms when you dream at night. And in deep sleep, where all the content is gone, the ego's gone. There's nothing there. And we've all had feelings, the experience of doing something completely unselfishly for no benefit for you. The ego is gone. If you've ever had the experience of something really beautiful surprising you, like a flower you hadn't seen, or driving around a curve and suddenly there's a vista comes into view in the mountains, and there's just this sudden awe that comes over you, that's the ego's gone. It's pure experience at that moment. The thought of I is gone. You're not in there experiencing that. That sense of I is not there. So the mission to diminish the ego is to see it for what it actually is. Thoughts about you that you have been believing to be true that aren't true. Seeing them is not true. And of course, you can't really see them not true until you know what is true. You are not any of your thoughts. When the thought of I is referring to the conditioning, it is not you. It is referring to something else. Now, mind you, the ego, or the mind, uses the word I all the time. It's forever speaking in first person. So the thought goes, I'm having a really hard time, comes to mind. Right? And you believe that I is referring to you, the consciousness that is perceiving it. And that's where, in that moment, the ego gets created. The sense of identification gets created. just because the mind says I am or I have or I need doesn't mean it's true. As a matter of fact, see if you can grasp this. That voice in your head, the one that's always using the word I, is not your voice. That is nothing but the patterns of thought that we know of as mind. It is not your voice. Nothing it is saying actually applies to you. The sense of I needs to return back. It needs to turn around and walk in the other direction. And the direction I keep pointing you all at, the inward direction, is becoming increasingly aware of yourself as the perceiver, as the consciousness that is aware of all of these things. And that use of the word I that we would call ego knows nothing of this awareness, and therefore is not referring to it. It is referring to the image that has been put in place by, circumstances and the like. The self-image that's being held, that's what that's referring to. And that I is limited, it's cranky, it's unhappy, it's seeking, it's grasping, it's resisting. There's not much there to enjoy. And that's what it's referring to. That's what all those thoughts are referring to. As Wu Sen put it so beautifully, he says, if the village idiot calls you stupid, do you pay any attention to him? Why do you listen to your mind? See, the mind, when it is conditioned, is simply going to repeat what it believes to be the truth, the quality of the conditioning. So if you are conditioned in a particular way because of the way your childhood went, your nervous system conditioned itself into a particular form to guarantee you survived. And now the mind keeps thinking that's what you are, keeps referring to that. That's what it's referring to when it says I. So the mind does not know you. You know you. Because the mind is nothing but thoughts. Thoughts are not self-aware entities. They are not sentient. They are not aware of you at all. So get in touch with the one thing that's different than everything else. That which is actually aware of all of these things. Thoughts aren't aware of themselves. This body isn't self-aware. This microphone isn't aware of my voice. You are. And that quality, that character of awareness, if I can put it in those terms, is different than the rest of it. It doesn't come and go, where everything else does. The sense of I, when that word, you start becoming really sensitive to when you use that word I. Well, wait a minute, what am I actually referring to? I'm saying I am unhappy. What am I referring to? I'm referring to a feeling right now. I'll call it unhappiness that's running through my body. That's there. But what's this I that says I am unhappy? There's just a feeling running through my system. Where's the I that's unhappy? And if you do that consistently, your attention is immediately going to be coming back to that which is perceiving the feeling running through you. And that I never has any place to land. The ego doesn't get created. And you realize that the whole reactive pattern has stopped. And that feeling arising of we call unhappiness simply dissolves. You realize there's no such thing as unhappiness. There's only a feeling running through the body. And it is impersonal. Is that helping you, Ebony? She says, wow, thank you so much. I always wanted to ask you that. I admire your teachings and respect you so much. Truly a privilege to get an answer from you. Thank you. Thank you, Ebony. Beautiful. I hope everybody else enjoyed that as well. Because it's not really heady. It's just a little bit of precision, a little bit of looking, and you can see, oh, The mind is not a thing. There's not an entity there thinking. There's only thought. Patterns of thought. It's like you could look at any object, and there's, look at this thing, which is a little, there's an object, right? There's nobody there. Somebody saying, I'm this. It's just a collection of energy. And that's all thought is. It's a subtler vibration, nothing more. And so there is no mind, per se. We don't have to deal with it like we're dealing with an entity that somehow... It's simply patterns of thought that you, consciousness, believed. You believed it to be true, and therefore it colored your experience. We are dismantling all of that. The ego does not exist. There's no such thing. There are only thoughts that are referring to an image of you, a self-image that isn't actually you. Is that clear? It's so important. And it can just kind of dismantle just a ton of falsities. You don't have to struggle with the ego. You have to overcome the ego. You don't have to overcome the ego because it doesn't exist. You simply have to see that it doesn't exist. And boom, you've overcome it. You don't have to struggle with it. You don't have to tame it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to improve it. You don't have to make it spiritual. Just see that it doesn't exist. It's just a thought. I believed it. And now I can just see patterns of thought are just patterns of thought. It's no big deal. It's not like there's something there thinking them that I've got to fix. Oh, it's just a pattern that got put into place. How did it get put into place? Oh, who knows? Really, who cares? Right? If in the process of dissolving that pattern of thought, there's some kind of need to know where it came from, or how it originated, how it got started, fine, it'll come up. It'll show itself on the way out. But sometimes just knowing that and not making a problem out of it, just knowing, oh, that thought is there. It's just a thought. It had some kind of origin for sure, but it's just a thought, and it's not really true. It's enough. That's all the energy it takes. The ego doesn't exist. It's not an entity. So you can stop fighting with it. And just notice the patterns of thought. Oh, and this is what thought... Everything in the universe is a pattern. Everything in the universe is conditioned, right? This is a pattern of energy. This is a pattern of energy. My glasses are a pattern of energy, right? This body is a pattern of energy. This thing behind me, there are patterns of energy, right? Changing, right? Because everything inside is moving. So everything is a pattern of energy. This is what Buddha meant when he said there's no self. He wasn't saying that this stuff didn't exist, that this didn't exist. He was saying there's no self in it. It's just a pattern. And we imagine that there's a self in it. So when we imagine that there's a self, this pattern of thoughts of I become an entity. Right? There's no entity there. Patterns of thought, nothing more. Got put into place because of various causes and conditions in our lives. Now you see them as that, and nothing but that. You can simply be present with them, surrender your activity, even your, oh my God, another egoic thought. I got to overcome my ego. Even that can go away. Who cares? You don't need to. You just see it. Another egoic thought. No reaction whatsoever. You completely suck the life out of it, and that pattern begins to change. And that's what we experience as healing, as liberation, as revelation, as insight, as the feeling of freedom, the feeling of peace that emerges, because we're simply no longer identifying with that which has no self, has no entity. Is this good for you all? Please let me know, because this is, I don't know how to get much deeper than that. You are the pure awareness, and the only problem is that you, as pure consciousness, have identified with the body and the egoic thoughts. That's it. The egoic thoughts are a self-image based on the body. So that sense of identification with the body is something that appeared, and you've been believing it. That's all there is to this. And And if you just really follow my words, you'll dismantle the thing and quickly, because you can't be fooled anymore. You know? You simply can't be fooled. Eli says, factual. Jonathan says, yes, thanks, GP. Popcorn Machine 84. Hey, G from Sweden. Hey, Popcorn. Marine Julian, thanks a lot for these live satsang. You're very, very welcome. Robert Hill says, I never understand the there's no one there thing. If ego is imaginary, the consciousness underneath is me. So I'm there, right? LOL. Confusing. You are there, of course. There's no one there when people say things. Most of the time, it really is just mental. It's intellectual. People have kind of seen an idea and they jump on. It's like people saying there's nobody here. There's nobody has to do anything. Nobody wakes up. There's no person here. There's no self here. Right? The sense of have you ever seen the starlings murmuring? The birds, they form these really hypnotic patterns in the sky as they move around. You can look it up, starlings murmuring on YouTube if you haven't seen it. And I remember a long time ago when I was living in California, there was a park near me. It was right on San Francisco Bay. And I would go down there. It was a big, beautiful park. And they would be there by the millions. And I was just mesmerized by them. If you see them, you realize that they're forming these shapes and they're not arbitrary. There's a beautiful shape there, but that there's no head bird there, typing out instructions to everybody. It's very spontaneously, they're moving together without ever communicating. Something is organizing them. Now you can see that clearly because I can look up and I can actually see individual birds, right? Now something like my body is more dense, right? I have to zoom down to a microscopic level to see the separation between the cells and the separation between the molecules. This body is no different. It is a self-organizing system. Something is organizing it. But you take the whole body apart, you cannot find a self in it. The self, the sense of being someone, is projected on this incredibly complex functioning. Just like the word mind is projected on the pattern of thoughts, body, the sense of me being somebody is projected on this pattern of energy that we call the body. So from that point of view, you say there's no one there, right? There's no entity in anybody's body. Consciousness is not an entity in somebody's body. It's not a thing. You could say that consciousness was the one being, is the self, the infinite self, and that would be the same as saying there is no self, right? Make sure I'm referring back to Robert here, right? So drop the whole idea that there's no one here. And just don't try to grasp it as a spiritual idea. Oh, there's nobody here. What? And just really look, because obviously there's someone here. There's you, right? It isn't about whether I'm here or not, or you're here, or there's nobody here. You're hearing my voice. Everybody listening to me is hearing my voice, right? So you're here, okay? I don't care. I don't care how clever the super being is, or how clever demonic the devil is. Nobody can convince you that you exist if you don't, okay? So you are here. You are here. The question is not whether you are here or not. Saying no one's here is really just a spiritual cliche. The question isn't whether you're here or not. The question is, who are you? Of course I'm here. It's self-evident. I'm aware of everything. But I've got all these ideas about what I am. They're all finite and small and narrow. What am I really? And that's what I keep pointing to you. The absolutely undeniable, unchanging fact, and the only fact that requires no external verification whatsoever, is your own existence. If I ask you, do you exist? You will answer yes. Right? You just know it. It's intuitive. You don't have to check anywhere. Am I alive? Let's see if I'm alive. You just know you are, right? So just throw out that there's no one here. You're here, at a bare minimum. Maybe nobody else is here, right? But you're here for sure, right? From my perspective, I'm definitely here. So who is that? Who is the one that's here? Then this has some meat. The ego is imaginary. That is, it is an abstraction. It's a thought that's simply a shorthand for saying this. Like, the word body is a shorthand for this. 100 trillion cells in incredibly complex combinations. I don't want to have to describe this every single time when I talk to you. So we have the capacity to abstract things. So I can say dog, and I'm referring to all dogs. So I can say a chihuahua, and you're referring to chihuahuas in general. And I can say this chihuahua, and I can hold it up. So that capacity to abstract is great. The problem is the moment we do that, the mind takes every abstraction and turns it into a real thing and starts creating stories about that. So now the ego, which is just a word to express every thought you have about yourself, now turns into an entity with stories, and it's this thing. Interestingly enough, our word ego, the word ego is simply the Greek word for I. When it got its current status and entered into the English language when Freud's book, I can't remember what the book was, it was written by Sigmund Freud, a book on his psychoanalysis, was translated into English. And in German it's just ich, which is German for I. But whoever did the translation thought, it was cool, he was going to give it meaning. He didn't just use the word I, he went and got the Greek word ego and stuck it in there instead. He could have just said I. The I. Because that's all it is. That's all ego means. The I. The sense of I. All the stories I have about I. All the stories there are about me. All the beliefs that I have about me. The sum total of that is the ego. So it is imaginary in the sense that it is only a word to describe a complex system. It has no entity other than that. It's not a thing that is producing thoughts. It is the thoughts, right? So consciousness is whatever's aware. The ego is not aware of anything because it's just a thought, and thoughts are not sentient. They are not self-aware. The thought does not think itself, right? They have to appear. They're an energy modulation in consciousness. In fact, they're not energy modulation of consciousness. So the underlying reality, your true nature, your true identity, the true I, the true ego, if you want to say, is self-aware consciousness. So does that help eliminate some of the confusion about it, Robert? So I don't want you to have any confusion. I want you to be absolutely clear. Ebony says, well, thanks. Oh, I already answered that. Factual, Jonathan, yes, thanks, GP. Hey, from Sweden. Thanks a lot for the live. Satsang, Maureen, yes, you're very, very welcome. Avatar, but there's a you and a me. Sadness may move through you while happiness moves through me. This is how I feel the sense of me. But it is only a sense of me. There is a sense, definitely, of being a separate person, of seeing other people and thinking they're separate people too. Oh, happiness is moving through me, but sadness is moving through him. Experientially, that's happening. Our understanding of what it is faulty. There's a you and a me. I rather than trying to do it, theoretically or intellectually, what I would invite you to do is to go deeply into the sense of me. Your question is good, but it needs to go further. It needs to dive in, because it's stopped here and said it seems to be a you and a me, and there's this sense of me. It just kind of stops there, but if I answer it at that level, you're going to be left missing something, right? I want you to examine the sense of me. And when you examine that sense of me, you're going to find that it's mostly phenomenal. There's a feeling of me. There's a feeling that I am that. And there's a tendency to identify with things, become extremely sensitive to that, and then realize that you are seeing all of those things. Every feeling, every sense of identification, every egoic motion, all of it is being perceived by you. Whatever that is you. That's the real you. The sense of me is something that comes and goes like everything else. But that sense of me is not self-perceiving. It's not sentient. It's me who is perceiving it. So if I just, okay, there's a sense of me, but that's not me because I'm looking at it. So who am I? Who am I really? Now you begin to bore through looking at this just on the level of the intellect, and it begins to drill deeply into the heart of the issue. You're the one seeing it. If I'm seeing it, it can't be me. So it's just a sense. That means that sense of me you're talking about is a sensation moving through the body like anything else that I have mistakenly identified as me. Look at it. You'll find that that's exactly what it is. That there's simply a sensation, an energy vibration that you're feeling, and a story that's arising about it that is projecting on it a sense of self, a sense that this is me. But the actual sense, the actual feeling that you're experiencing, that's not announcing itself as me. It's just an experience. So all of that is simply the patterns of thought, or the ego, that has a self-image. That self-image, it's now projecting on experience and imagining that the me is actually something real. Does that help, Avatar? Rosario says, thank you from Spain. Thank you from Seattle. One more thing for there, but there's a you and a me. And then the illusion of you and me can dissolve. But the reality of you and me, which is two that are one, it doesn't mean there's, everybody goes away and there's just you standing here. That would be a solipsism, and it's pretty insane. You just don't make any distinction. There's an experience of other, which is the beauty of diversity and relationship, and all of that's there. But while it's, on one hand, the level of manifestation, it's many and interactive, and there's a you and me, in the realm of pure reality, there's only one. It's all an expression of the same singular self. But it does not eradicate the experience of two. You couldn't have an expression of love if you didn't have two. If there's just the one, love would have no meaning. And so the two doesn't exist as an entity, right? It's not that there's actually two. There's simply an experience of the diversity, that it's all the same love. It's all the same consciousness. consciousness knowing itself creates a universe of diverse forms. That is, pondering its own nature, you get a universe. But its own nature is absolutely pure awareness. See, RHGH15. Hi GP, it's Ray from the UK. Hi Ray. If everything is about thought, so even knowing that I'm the pure awareness or consciousness will be a thought, what are the points of all these teachings? To point. Exactly. To point. Yes. And for many people, say, oh yeah, I'm pure awareness. That's it. And that's as far as they take it. This is just, this should give you a taste. If something inside you says, wow, this really seems true, but there's all this stuff here as well. And then you can even say, well, then you have pure awareness. Well, that's just a thought too. Well, yeah, it is. We want to go beyond thought because thoughts are just, a pattern of energy, a condensation of consciousness in a moment. There's no absolute truth to them. We want to get to the absolute truth. We want to get to the awareness that was there before any word could be formed for, right? For you to have any sense of anything at all, even the sense of I, even to have a sense of an ego, you had to be there first, right? We can't have a reaction to you until you're there. You have to be there first. What I'm saying is, what is there purely? A word that points towards it is pure awareness, because the word awareness or consciousness, there's a feeling of spaciousness. It's a feeling of being formless. There's a feeling of being receiving, letting everything come in. If you just kind of sit with just awareness, you can see that it doesn't really have a boundary. Anything can come and go with an awareness. But so I'm using all these words to point you to an experience that you're having. What is it, the experience you're having right now of being conscious, of hearing my words, of receiving all of the information and stuff that's coming along? Where's that going? Who are you? The real answer to the question isn't the words, your pure awareness. The answer to that question is the realization of who you are. And that's the only answer that's acceptable. And don't stop till you get it. So thank you for that. You're absolutely right. It's just another thought. But obviously, some thoughts are better than others. Some thoughts are better at pointing, right, than other thoughts are. Some teachers are better at pointing than other teachers are. Some can't teach. Some people who are quite awake can't teach. That's just not their thing. There's many. Steve Jourdain was one. Fully awakened being, never became a teacher. Right? He did all sorts of things, right? And awoke at 16 years old, right? Fully awake, a fully enlightened master, never taught. So some people are going to point better than others, but all words are a pointer to your experience. The real answer comes from you and your own genuine, authentic experience. Then you'll find words to give expression to it. Maybe it'll be a different word from awareness. Maybe it'll be the same. But you'll find certain words are just more skillful in directing somebody's attention. The simplest I can always do is go, well, who's hearing my words? There's some place where experience is being registered. And I can clearly distinguish between what's going on, the context, the content, the experience that's happening, and me having that experience. I can clearly see that I'm having an experience. I'm aware of my existence. I'm aware of all of these things. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the perimeter, all of which I'm aware of. I just point you there. Just keep looking in that place and keep asking the questions. But it's very simple. It's what's hearing my words. That's consciousness, right? Unconsciousness can't hear my words. Non-consciousness can't hear my words. Only consciousness hears the words. So whatever's hearing me is the pure awareness. Period. It's not complicated. The one that's hearing my words right now is the awareness, isn't it? Because you're aware of them. Now we have a lot of accumulated thoughts about what that is. I just keep bringing your attention back to the direct experience of it, so that the direct experience can show you what it is, not all the ideas we have about it. And then you will transcend the thoughts of awareness, because awareness can't capture it. How can you capture infinite self-consciousness? No word can capture that. But hey, we use the word universe to express all that is, right? It's one little word. So it's good, but it's a pointer. It's an abstraction. It's not it. I can talk about the Great Wall of China, but it's not the Great Wall of China. Is that helping? RHGH 15? Mean Man, thank you. Mame Man, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Thank you, Walsh. Very cool. Thank you, Robert Hill. That's a real good explanation, analogy about the birds. Thanks. Yes, it is. It's even gotten the nurse. I heard a biologist speaking about it, and they now in biology they refer to it as self-organizing systems, because they can't find a self in the middle of it. So that's all of this. But there is that which is not the result of something else. It is fundamental. That's what I keep referring to as the pure awareness, and pointing you in that direction, pointing you to the experience in your life of the changeless, because you do have that experience. But just not trying to make that which is constantly changing, try to make that permanent, that will create suffering. Accepting it as changing is the end of suffering. And then finding that which doesn't change. But that which doesn't change is not a thing. It is not a process. It is not a result. It has no cause. It didn't come from somewhere else. It is pure being, without a beginning and without an end. It just is. It just is. It's not even a thing that is. It's existence with no thing attached to it whatsoever. I just am. We're pretty deep here. I'm very happy about this. Maureen says, very clear indeed. Great. Good. Interestingly enough, the biologist that I heard talking about it was a 30-year student of Zen. So he clearly gets the no-self thing, which I thought was very cool. Sophie Austin, is I am who's here the unseen organizing intelligence? Beyond mind, is that omniscience, knowing itself? Thank you, GP. Love, Sophie. Yes, but it is not organizing, the way fundamentalists want to make, what do they call it? Intelligent design? Because they imagine God, the creator, like a very superhuman being who's creating out of an act of will in time. Yes, there's the organization of it is simply the internally consistent, indivisible nature of being itself. Everything reflects the inner harmony of the divine love, of divine truth, of the pure awareness. Everything reflects that harmony, and therefore it looks harmonious, but nothing's in it organizing it. It is being organized by the environment in which it is appearing. It is the mind of God, and there's no confusion in the mind of God. Right? And when we have a dream at night, there are people there and animals, and they're doing things, right? There's no one there. There's no one doing anything. Right? It is all being orchestrated by you. But you're not consciously deciding what this person is going to do. That in the dream state, it's just happening spontaneously, right? Well, that's a good metaphor for the nature of creation from the point of view of the infinite consciousness from which it is all emerging. So it's not an act of will. It's not a conscious act in time. It is the constant generating of form, constantly. 100 trillion times a second, if you like that number, constantly. It's generating the form. The form is not a thing. It didn't make a thing and then it's going to go away. It is constantly being replenished. So there's no thing there. And the organizing intelligence is simply thinking about itself. What we call the universe is actually God's self-image. Everything you know of as in existence is actually the mind of God, if you want to put it that way. And that is omniscience. That is, it knows everything because everything is in it. It knows everything because it knows itself. It is all-knowing. It knows the all. And so everything being a reflection of that. It's like when you look in the mirror, there's nobody there. There's nobody looking back at you. And you know yourself. The pure awareness that I keep pointing at simply looks around and sees nothing but itself. So there's a you and a me, but there's only me. So I experience a you, but I know that's me. And that happens to you every night when you dream. You experience someone, it can be very pleasurable, it can be very painful, very scary, very happy, right? But there's nobody there. It's all you. Right? But don't take that on a personal level. Oh, there's just me here and I'm making all this up. It's not like that at all. So I direct you to dismantle the image you have of yourself and put more and more of your attention in the simple experience of being aware. And notice how the awareness is constant, everything else is changing. But that awareness is me. I'm the one that's aware. I am that awareness. Awareness is my nature. I'm not trying to get to it. I'm already it. I'm simply removing everything that clearly contradicts that. And that will deepen and deepen and deepen until you have a full realization. Chosen One says, I need to post my question 3 more times because you always skip it. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm a bit pissed, but I guess that's the ego. I'm terribly sorry. I remember I skipped over you once because Robert had a second half of his, and I guess, all right, well, I got it now. I'm very, very sorry. Okay. I need to learn some skills that are necessary for my job, but I want to do something else in my life. How do I go about that? Do I try my best to learn that, or I meditate for a different job? Well, they're not mutually exclusive. I've found that every skill I've ever learned has come in handy, no matter where I am. If I'm invited to learn something, because you're in this job now, something has come to you. You've got all these different feelings there at the same time. I don't really like this job, right? Now there's a skill I've got to learn for this job, but I don't really want to be at this job. So so it kind of takes the fun out of learning a new skill. And then I want to be someplace else. So I'm here. I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else, but I'm not there. And while I'm here, there's some things that I have to do that I'd really rather not do. Now I want you to just be really open and present. What I'm sensing behind your question is you're asking for, okay, do I meditate on your job or go ahead with the skills? And it's not either or. Life is this. It's not, this is my position, I'm just going to do that and not do that. If you get to that state of equanimity, then there's no more conflict, and this won't cause you any suffering. There's both here. Well, I'm in this job, and I need to be responsible for this job while I'm doing it, so I'll just do it. In the meantime, I will give all the energy I can to opening myself up, and maybe even taking practical steps to look for a different job, a job that I think is much more in line with who I am now. And that's perfectly natural. You have a job at one point in life. No jobs these days are forever. You know, and unless you're a musician or something, or an artist or things, there are some things that they just go on for your whole life. Most of the jobs we do for making a living in life, they're not forever. They're just a stopgap along the way. You can be with both of those. The feeling that you have with the job you have, really let yourself feel your aversion to it. I don't want to be there. And you'll notice that that's just a feeling. There's the job, and the job is just what it is. And then there's a reaction to that job of, I don't want to be there. Notice that reaction. That's where the suffering is coming in. And then you just kind of be with that as a sensation, as an experience going on, without trying to find a solution to it. Just be with the feeling that's making it uncomfortable. And now you're directly in contact with your suffering, but now you're present with it. You're just letting yourself feel it. And you will find that eventually that feeling will dissipate. And on the other side, I want a different job. You can feel the clutchiness, the grabbing, the attachment to getting something else. Be with that feeling. And then what happens is the purity of the experience begins to emerge because your reactive patterns are taken off of it. Your ideas about it, your narrative is removed, which means you start clearly discerning all of the actual experiences themselves. And at that point, your energy has shifted. New opportunities will open up. An opportunity in this job could open up. A completely different job somewhere in a different part of the world could open up. You might go into your own business. Anything can happen, but it can't happen while you're fighting between these two things. It can only happen when you become equanimous, absolutely cool with what's happening right now. And be with it totally. Because remember, the purpose here for all of us isn't just to get some changes made in our life. It is to overcome the reactive patterns that have been causing all our suffering. It is to go beyond our conditioning. And the way to do that is to be with the uncomfortable feeling without reacting. Because the reacting is the programmed response. So if you are with the feeling without reacting, you are present. And then that feeling, blood on my face? And that feeling then can arise. It doesn't connect up with the story. It creates no sense of reaction. Fades. Nothing to sustain it. And this is how we go free. This is how we realize freedom. No, I guess it isn't. I need to learn some skills in another job. Oh, okay. Does that work for you, chosen one? And again, I apologize for skipping you. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not singling you out for bad behavior. Avatar said, okay, GP, we'll try that. Thanks for your kindness. You're very welcome. What's the time getting to be here? 2:48. Okay, a little bit more. Actually, there's two more here. Okay. Hi, G. How can I stay conscious or present when I'm ill and tired? Well, you can't be ill and tired without being conscious, can you? You're conscious of the illness and you're conscious of the tired. See, consciousness is not therapeutic. Its purpose isn't to get rid of all uncomfortable feelings. It's to show you that all feelings are neutral. Right? So you're conscious of the illness, aren't you? Well, you're conscious. So if you stay with the feeling of the illness, with the tiredness, you'll notice that when you feel the ill, you can feel reaction, trying to get away from it, trying to compensate for it, trying to do something with it, right? Now, I'm not saying, don't do what you need to do when you're ill, don't take care of your tired, rest. I'm not trying to do that. But all I'm suggesting is for us to become increasingly adept at recognizing the reactive patterns. And because it's in the reactive patterns that is where all the suffering is. So be conscious of the illness. And then you can even dive into it because it's an experience you're having. What does it mean to be ill? What's happening? And you'll notice there's things in your body, there's a listlessness, all of that. And then you can be really curious. Okay, well, why does that create suffering? Is there anything about this that should make me suffer? And I'll tell you, there isn't. There's nothing about an illness that makes you suffer. You're just ill. What makes you suffer is our not wanting it to be that way. Gotta get through this. Oh, God, I don't want to do that. Grumble, 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 grumble. And I have found consistently, when I'm just with the illness, it has little to no impact on me doing what I need to do during the day. And it goes away very quickly. Because there's no suffering in it. There's only the experience of the illness. And you will find that the experience of illness is not unpleasant. It's not pleasurable, but it's not unpleasant. That the unpleasantness has been created by the mind and projected on it, and that project is resistance. I don't want this. I don't want to feel this. But you're already feeling it. It's already there. It's already in consciousness. You don't need to stay conscious. You're already conscious. You do need to stay present. You need to let consciousness be there and not try to focus it somewhere else. How's that for you? Does that work? Oh my, all of a sudden a whole ton of them came. I thought there was two, now there's a whole bunch. So does that work for you, Dinesh? W says, hi GP. Hi W. Let's see. Mark Nolan, hi GP. I was watching the 1993 movie Little Buddha. I love that movie. It's great. Earlier, a very interesting and inspirational film. I was thinking, I wish they could make a movie about you and your life. I'd like that. Well, I'm not sure I'm that interesting, but that's pretty funny. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, though. You know, actually, I've not had a monochrome life. That's for sure. I've had a very interesting and rewarding life, starting from when I was very young. You know, from the depths of hell to the pinnacles of heaven, and everything in between. So, but you know, everyone's life has behind it basically the same story. The point of your life is to wake up to who you are. That's why you're here. That's it. That's all there is to it. And, you know, the experiences in our life may seem big and dramatic and have these huge special effects and stuff that go with it. They may seem very drab and normal and mundane. It doesn't matter. The ultimate goal is not to have the peak experience. It is to be free from dependency on all experience. So you're just being yourself. And when you have a desire for the truth that has been kind of initiated in you, planted in you, life organizes itself in such a way that it brings that about. It starts blessing you. But in order to bring about the full realization of truth, you can't just say it to you, because there's no place to receive it. So what it does, it starts sending you experiences and opportunities for you to grow in character, in nuance, in subtlety, so that you can begin to ask these questions in the right way. You can begin to become the one capable of making this level of inquiry. And that sometimes involves some hardship and some pain and some struggle, because what we're really, really struggling with all the time is not life. We are struggling with the false sense of identity. And we find that, in fact, it is the false sense of identity that is doing the struggling, and that you and life are completely free of all pain and suffering. Mark Immel says, I seem to go through phases. A couple of weeks ago, I felt like I was going through memory. Like I was about to die to my whole life. I always pull back for fear of the finality. Experienced it before. Felt void when I was younger. Was terrified when it hit me. was concerned I'd never relate to anyone the same again. Was terrified. Don't make a big deal out of it. The sense of a threat to the ego that we've invested so much in, because it's those thoughts of I have gotten so intertwined with our bodily functions and everything. What is nothing but a threat to a false thought feels like it's an actual physical threat to ourselves. It's not. When that feeling comes up, just notice it's an intense feeling. It feels like I'm going to die. I'm going to lose my mind. But just notice it. Stay with it. Say, okay, if that's what happens, that's what happens. And stay with it and see what happens. Watch. It's intimidated you. It's trying to get you to back off for fear of the finality, right? Don't back off. What can it do? It's a thought. Can it kill you? No. The only thing you can lose is the crap that isn't you. That's the only, you cannot lose what is actually you, right? You cannot lose what you are. You cannot be anything other than what you are. So the mind will go, oh, look at that. Oh, fine, you're going to lose everything. Oh, your friends. Oh my God, it's going to be terrible. You're going to be one of these guys wearing orange all the time. You're going to shave your head. You're going to be horrible. It's going to be, right? It's a smoke screen. The mind is full of shit. It can't do any of those things. It is fighting for its life, right? It's the one that's going to die, not you. The thoughts you're holding about yourself are going to fade. There's not even anything there to die. The mind isn't a thing that can die. The ego is not a thing that can die. It's just thoughts about the fear of not being someone. And the remedy for that is to be someone. That is, be what you actually are. And notice that all of this is happening on the screen of awareness. All of it. All of it's coming and going. And just remain unmovable. You're not fighting with it, and you're not indulging with it. You're not pushing it away. You're not trying to reframe it, and you're not holding on to it. You're just allowing these feelings to run through you. And that's how you learn that they do not carry any real weight. They're a paper tiger, and you will be free of it. So, hope that helps you, Mark. Robert Hill. So when we understand and realize who we are, it does not take away the depth of emotion. Pain is still pain. In a sense, when you lose something, it's easier to cope, but you still feel them. Yes, of course you're going to feel it. You lose somebody you love, you're going to feel that. But it won't be with suffering. There won't be additional stuff added on. It will be the pure experience. And because you've practiced allowing, you are not intimidated by the pure experience, and it can just move through you. Right? But you'll feel it all. Of course you will. You will feel everything that, if there's somebody that's close to you and they die, there's a whole energetic gap there. The whole body, there's all sorts of things have to readjust. But deep in your heart, the equanimity knows that there's a part of them that's still with you, and that nothing is the same, nothing stays the same, and that I'm going to be gone at some point, and somebody's going to be feeling that way about me, and that this is okay. And then little by little, we begin to transcend even death, even things aren't coming and going. There aren't any things. There's only you. And life, everything is being spontaneously generated. I mean, who would want to have a full awakening and then sit around all day and not feel anything, not do anything, not know anything, just kind of... It's pretty boring. I wonder if there's a magazine available. Right? I mean, what kind of a reward would that be? Life is rich. The problem isn't life. It's not experience. It's not emotion. It's not pain. The problem is the story in our heads that has created a false version of you that is at war with all of that, fighting it, wanting it to be something else, right? Refusing to accept it as it is. And that's the suffering. When that's gone, you find there's no suffering in life. It's just pure experience. Even the pain is pleasurable. It's just experience. The word pain is even gone, because that's a pejorative. That's a judgment on it. There's just sensation, the experience of being. And eventually even that gets transcended and you find it's nothing but mind. There's nothing here but consciousness. Step by step by step. Hi, GP. I see this, it's ducks, hi ducks. I see this strange, transparent, whitish glow around people, buildings, trees, etc. As they move, this tends to follow with some delay, crystal clear. It's been years now. Do you have any idea or experience of that effect? I have on occasion, caught glimpses of other kinds of energy patterns. Again, don't make a big deal out of it. There's way more to us than we think. We don't end at this body. Consciousness doesn't end at all, right? We've just habituated our thinking into thinking this is the body, right? And there's nothing else to it. And then somebody can see auras or the chakras or something like that, and we become dubious. It's only because we're narrowed in our pattern, right? We think this is the perimeter of it, and that's all there is. And if it can't be detected by some machine, it can't be real. It's real, right? We don't really know what it is. It's a factor of life. You're seeing into a different dimension. You're seeing. It doesn't matter. The actual experience itself, even if it's incredibly, out-of-body experiences, is still an experience and is still being perceived by exactly the same thing. Remember, this is satsang. My interest is in drawing your attention to that which is having the experience, not the experience itself. And so extraordinary experiences, well, they happen. I've had plenty. And I was into them for a while, right? Kind of get into that. There was a time when I practiced spiritual healing so I could bring about miraculous things. And I realized it's not the way. It isn't actually going to lead you to know who you are. It's simply an experience. If the experience has some importance for your human life, it'll develop and maybe do something with. I've got a couple of my certified facilitators in inner reconciliation are psychics. They do readings for people and that sort of thing. I don't do any of that. But they have access to certain kinds of information. And they've tempered it since they've studied with me and learned inner reconciliation. And they don't put as much emphasis on it as they used to. But it's still a valid tool to bring about healing and bring about health, make you a living, all sorts of things. There's validity to all of this stuff. But because we are so narrow in our idea of who we are, and so focused and so really identified with the body, when something comes along that's outside of that model, we think, oh, it's extraterrestrial, or it's extrasensory perception, and all of these things. All it means we've had an experience that is outside our normal. What I suggest we do is not call it, paranormal, but to expand our sense of normal. Well, it is happening. Okay, it's happening. It's part of consciousness. Okay, boom. Let make my understanding bigger, to incorporate it, and not just kind of reject it off to the fringe because it has implications that I don't like. So again, just let it be what it is. Let it reveal whatever it needs to reveal to you. And remember that it's not conscious of you. You're conscious of it. It's what's appearing in your consciousness. And the more you know who you are, the more your consciousness grows, the more it's going to experience. Because the shades are going to come off. You're going to start seeing things as they really are. And as they really are is is pretty different than what we think when we are tightly identified with the body. Poppy says, "Oh my God, GP, I'm so late." Poppy, glad to have you here. Okay, we've got one more here. RHGH15. Thanks, GP. To be a pure awareness is not something to be experienced. It's not conceivable or perceivable by human brain or mind, so we do not have any other instrument to know such a pure reality. Yes, you can't know it objectively, right? We have no instrument for detecting awareness. Awareness is self-aware, because the only thing that's aware is awareness. So if you're aware of being aware, you're it. Does that penetrate a little bit? Right? It can't know itself by looking at itself, right? It knows itself because it is itself. You know yourself because you are yourself. Your knowingness and your beingness are one and the same. She goes on, all these are the play of the mind to find a way of experiencing the unknowable truth. Very true. There is no truth. We're all here and the same time disappear in these strange phenomena. We call it being. Yes. Yes, I think you're getting close to it. I think you're putting your finger on it. We are immersed in experience. From the time we're young, our attention is going outward, not inward. And by inward, I don't mean into the body. I mean into that which is behind the lens. What is it that's perceiving? And if you see that which is being perceived, doing the perceiving cannot itself be perceived, it's not a form that you can outline. It lays waste to all knowledge. That's why it's called Vedanta. It means the end of knowledge in Sanskrit. The Vedanta inquiry is the end of knowledge. Objective knowledge. And you've stepped into direct knowledge. I know myself because I am myself. Not because I've seen myself or I've read about myself or somebody's told me about myself. I know myself because I am myself. And I know it directly, experientially, intuitively, as feeling, as experience. Every experience I have tells me I am. Even when I have no experience, I am. So, human knowledge, which is the defining of one thing in terms of something else, abstraction, generalization, all the things, memory, all of those things, none of it can describe you. It can't see you. It can't know you. So human knowledge cannot know you, cannot describe you. Only you can know you. And you cannot know yourself as an object. You can only know yourself from the inside. I am this. And put away all the thoughts. And that what's saying I am this isn't something trying to prove that I'm it, is this. What's saying I don't get it is it. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm not awake. Are all thoughts appearing to the understandingness, to the awakeness, to the knowingness? That's what you are. And I'll just keep harping on it till somebody goes, oh, I get it. Alessandra says hello from Monterey. Dinesh says, thanks, GP. Mark Nolan says, thanks, my little Buddha. Awareness says, GP, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You're always exactly what you always say exactly what I need you to. The Happy Jesus says, who are you? I'm not sure on what level you're asking the question. I just stumble into my thing here and want to know who I am. Or are you asking, I'm the unknowable, undefinable, untouchable, imperceivable. My attributes are love, compassion, wisdom, heart. But those are just the attributes that are seen. What I am, I don't know. And I never will. LFC Dilek says, hi, gee, wonderful as always in regards to vibration of being and consciousness of being knowing. Do you practice meditation at any particular vibration at 582, etc., relationship between ego and being, and its vibration is interesting. I have experimented a bit with the different frequencies, and I've felt an effect of them. But my meditation is simply I just do exactly what I'm telling you guys to do. I go to that place of pure awareness, which simply means the place where I am perceiving everything, and I know I am there, and I watch the thoughts come and go. And I watch the tendency, the habits come up that want to hold on to some thoughts and push other ones away. And I just sit there with it. It's a very, it's a yoga of allowing. It's very simple, but that's all I do. Because, I've tried those things, brain entrainment and those kind of things, and they're nice. But again, remember, where I'm pointing you at is the one perceiving the 582 hertz frequency. And the effect that has will only be on the body, the brain, the mind, and that. Because there is no frequency that can have any effect on awareness. It all happens within awareness, right? So space, you can vibrate at any speed, and the space in which it's vibrating is not going to be affected. So vibrating at 528 hertz will affect the body. It'll interact with the body, just like hearing a good song will interact with the body. But none of it touches the awareness that you are. Well, that's it for today, folks. God, I love doing this. I'm so grateful for you all coming. Quite a few of you, almost 50. Please tell people about it. Please let people know. Please like and share. I saw a lot of people with thumbs up liking it. Thank you. That it really does help. As always, if somebody wants to contribute a little money to the kitty to help me keep this stuff on the air, I will never ever put any kind of advertisements in any of my videos. I'm never going to do that. I don't want to turn this into a monetization opportunity. So I survive completely on the money I make from the courses that I sell and from people donating. So gpwalsh.com/donate will allow you to put some money in the kitty for me. And the class that I was doing last week got all messed up in the scheduling, and people were there at the wrong times. The times I actually gave them, I messed it all my doing. So because it was messed up so badly, I'm doing the class next week on Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. So it's called the Vibrational Being's Guide to Romance, and I go into the vibration of romantic relationships, but within the context of deep spiritual inquiry. So not just a bunch of stare, do this and you'll have a better relationship. It really, relationships are a direct reflection of who we are with ourselves. But they're also a beautiful means by which the discovery of who we really are is actually enhanced. So it's not one or the other. It's another beautiful circle that allows us to have yet another rich experience of life that contributes to our spiritual awakening. So I'll be doing it. If you're interested in that, it's gpwalsh.com/deep dive. You can register for it there. So thanks, GP, from the Chosen One. Ava says, yes, this kind of meditation is the best. It's real. You taught me that. I'm grateful. You're very welcome. Thanks for that. It's nice to do that while doing chores like washing the dishes as well. Almost like informal. Yeah, I actually use that. I have some from I Awake. And I'll put them on in the gym because they're just like ocean sounds and stuff. So I don't have to listen to the music in gyms, which I don't particularly like. But once again, and even John Dupuy, who's the fellow who created iAwake, I've had conversations with him, and he says the same thing. It's a tool, it's an adjunct, but you still have to learn how to meditate. It's not going to be able to do it for you. So all of these frequencies do have an effect, right? But the ultimate we're after is the discovery of who we really are. So, always don't be so mystified by the effect that it's having that you forget about the one who's aware of the effect. Because the one who's aware of the effect, that's the eternal. That's you. Sab says, Sab in Paris here, thanks GP, you're welcome. Hippie Jesus, this camp at the end, I just got here. Yeah, we start at 4 Eastern. And it's been like going on 2 hours and 15 minutes. But if you gotta, you can re-listen on the replay, which will be ready shortly, and we'll be here every week at 4 p.m. So glad to have you, Hippie Jesus. Wonderful. Ebony says, how do we donate? gpwalsh.com/donate. And they'll take you to a page where you can donate via PayPal. If you want to do it via Patreon, you can. gpwalsh.com/Patreon. Patreon. But Patreon is only for recurring. If you wanted to give something every month, and even $1 a month helps. If you just wanted to donate one time, though, use the gpwalsh.com/donate. And also, all the money from my classes that I give coming up also goes towards this, right? So that is how I make my living. I teach and I do this, and I try to keep it so that I can give away as much free stuff as I possibly can. So LFC says, yes, thank you, and have a wonderful week, everyone. So that's it. Thanks, everyone. Love you all. It's such a pleasure and an honor to get to do this with you every week. So until next week,